Hey, my reactor. So we back again with the woman of the Bible, and this is titled "The Woman Who Lived a Sinful Life." Her character: she was a notorious sinner, most likely a prostitute. Rather than trying to defend what was indefensible in her life, she admitted her sins and made a spectacle of herself in passionate display of love and gratitude. Her sorrow that she had offended God so grievously, her joy that Jesus forgave her sins and commended her for her great faith and love. Her story: the woman felt as though her world has unraveled in a moment's time. Doors had opened, walls had crumbled. Thoughts of her future no longer frightened but thrilled her. She felt clean and whole, innocent as a girl still living in her father's house. Her heart was a wild confusion of sorrow and joy as she followed her rabbi through the doorway. Ignoring the stares of the man, she walked over to the place where Jesus was reclining at a table. In her hand, she held an alabaster jar of perfume. Her body trembled as she approached. She hardly knew what she was doing as she covered his feet with her kisses and then anointed them with the precious perfume, wiping his feet with her hair. How else could she express her heart to the man who had loved her so well? Like any good Pharisee, Simon loved the law, measuring his days by the steady rhythm of the regulations by which he lived. They were a fence safeguarding his purity, protecting his sense of settled security. How good for how good of the holy God to provide a mouthful of righteousness, a way of life to set him apart from ordinary Jews. Like the woman who had just walked through the door, hoping to glean a few scrapes from his table. Simon was surprised that a prostitute, even a hungry one, would enter his house, but his surprise grew as he noticed she was not eating but weeping so profusely that her tears were spilling onto the feet of one of his guests. Everything about the scene repelled him and offended his sense of order. A notorious harlot kissing the man's feet, wiping them with her hair, and then pouring perfume over them. It was an astonished performance. Even more astonishing was the fact that his guests seemed to enjoy the tension. If this man were a prophet, Simon thought, he would know who is touching him and what kind of woman she is, that she is a sinner. Of all his questions about Jesus were put to rest by the scene he had just witnessed. His older ways of looking at the world was safe enough, bolstered by the judgment he had rendered. As though he had overheard Simon's secret thoughts, Jesus turned and spoke to him. Simon, I had something to tell you. Two men owed money to a certain moneylender. One owed him 500 and the other 50. Neither of them had the money to pay him back, so he canceled the debts of both. Now, which of them will love him more? Simon replied, I suppose the one who had the biggest debt canceled. You had judged correctly, Jesus said. Then he turned towards the woman and said to Simon, do you see this woman? I came into your house. You did not give me any water for my feet, but she wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You did not give me a kiss. Destiny! You did not give me a kiss, but this woman from the time I entered has not stopped kissing my feet. You did not put oil on my head, but she had poured perfume on my feet. Therefore, I tell you, her many sins has forgiven, for she loved much, but he who had been forgiven little loves little. The other guests began to say among themselves, who is this who even forgives sins? Jesus said to the woman, your faith has saved you. Go in peace. Though this woman was a notorious sinner, she recognized her great need for grace. Repentance turned her world on its head, opening up an entirely new view of things. Simon, by the contrast, was a religious man who no doubt had done his best to live a respectable life. His sins were stuck away, hidden even from himself. His habit of judging others has formed a fence around his one-dimensional view of the universe, shielding his neat and orderly life from the unpredictable power of grace. But Simon and the woman both owed a debt they could not possibly repay. Though Simon's sin was less obvious, it was the more dangerous. He was like a man who was following the mount he was certain would lead to heaven. But when heaven came down and walked into the house, he didn't even know it. The woman, on the other hand, realized just how lost she had been. Forgiven much, she loved much. She found heaven at the feet of Jesus. And I will be back with another chapter of the Bible.